All right, let's dive deep into Victor Frankenstein's mind.
Sounds intriguing.
We're going right into chapter 18 of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein.
Okay.
This chapter's like the calm before the storm. It's a chance to really understand what makes Victor tick.
Yeah.
And maybe even see the cracks forming, the ones that lead to his downfall.
Interesting.
So we find Victor back in Geneva, struggling with a huge decision.
Right.
He's supposed to be creating another creature, a female one.
The one he promised the monster. Right.
Exactly.
Mm.
But he's dragging his feet, big time.
He's caught between a rock and a hard place, isn't he?
Absolutely. On one hand, he's terrified of the monster's revenge.
Yeah.
But the thought of actually creating another creature, it fills him with dread.
It's a terrifying prospect to be responsible for another being like that.
And then there's this shift.
What do you mean?
Victor starts to feel better, healthier, his spirits lift, and the urgency to create that second creature, it just fades.
That's strange, isn't it?
It's almost like he's trying to convince himself.
Convince himself of what?
That everything's under control.
Ah, I see, like he's in denial.
Exactly. And then his father enters the picture, totally oblivious to the whole monster situation.
Yeah, right.
He's worried about Victor's mood, wants him to marry Elizabeth.
Ah, the classic fatherly concerns.
This conversation is where things get really fascinating.
How so?
We see Victor's genuine love for Elizabeth. But he feels like he can't commit. Not with the monster out there.
It's like he's trapped by his own actions.
Imagine carrying that secret.
A secret like that would eat you alive.
It's a responsibility so huge he can't share it with anyone, not even the woman he loves.
I can't even imagine.
Is he being selfish?
Selfish.
Putting his fears above his family's happiness?
It's a tough question, isn't it?
He's burdened with knowledge that would shatter his family.
True, but by keeping silent, he creates this distance.
Isolation.
Yeah.
He becomes a master of rationalization. He tells himself he needs to travel for research.
To England, right.
Yes, to protect his family by keeping them in the dark.
But are those valid reasons?
Or just excuses?
His inner struggle really reveals a lot about him.
Absolutely. About his sense of responsibility, his morality.
He knows he messed up, but he's not ready to face the music.
So off he goes to England, running from his past.
A mix of emotions, I bet.
Fear of the monster.
Of course.
But also a flicker of excitement, maybe even hope.
Hope for what?
That he can outrun his past. Then there's Henry Clerval, Victor's friend.
Right.
He's completely enthralled by everything, the journey, the scenery.
He's like a kid in a candy store.
Exactly.
But
consumed by darkness.
the darkness inside.
He has these moments of peace, glimpses of tranquility.
But they're fleeting.
Always overshadowed by dread.
It's like he knows time is running out.
And just as he arrives in England, we're reminded. He can't escape.
Escape what?
The consequences.
The consequences of his actions.
He's constantly looking over his shoulder, worried about his family.
Knowing the monster is out there?
His happiness hinges on fulfilling that promise to the monster.
The promise that fills him with terror.
So we're left with this sense of foreboding.
Foreboding.
Victor might have escaped physically, but his past, his creation,
it's bound to him.
It'll always be there.
It's like a shadow.
Exactly.
A haunting reminder of what he's done. This whole journey Victor's on really makes you think, doesn't it?
About?
The responsibility we have for the things we create.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, almost like that classic genie in a bottle kind of thing.
Right. He let something loose that he couldn't control.
Exactly.
And now he's got to deal with it.
But it goes even deeper than just, like controlling the monster, though, right?
Oh, definitely.
It's about those ripple effects.
The consequences.
The consequences, yeah. How they impact more than just Victor himself.
Makes you think.
And then things get even more complicated when you see how similar Victor and the monster are.
Oh, how so?
They're both isolated,
Yeah.
longing for connection.
Yeah.
But also capable of incredible destruction.
Hmm.
It's almost like they're two sides of the same coin, isn't it?
Two sides.
Yeah. Makes you wonder if Victor's fear of the monster is really just him being scared of himself.
You mean like?
Like he's afraid of what he's capable of?
Oh, the darkness inside.
Exactly.
That's kind of chilling.
It is. And remember, the chapter really digs into all that psychological torture he's going through.
Right.
He's not just some brilliant scientist who made a mistake.
He's more complex than that.
Way more complex. He's flawed.
Deeply.
Yeah. Wrestling with guilt and ambition and that crushing isolation.
And that isolation, that's a big part of it, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I mean, even though he's got people who love him.
Like his father, Elizabeth.
Henry.
Right?
He can't really connect with him
Nope.
because of that huge secret he's carrying around.
It's like this invisible wall between him and everyone
A
else.
wall built of secrets,
Makes you think about the impact of secrets on relationships in general.
doesn't it? Do you think he could have confided in someone?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
Or was he destined to carry this alone?
Maybe.
Either way, that inability to connect, to share that burden, it's fuel for his downward spiral.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It shows how destructive secrets can be.
Poisoning even the strongest bonds.
Exactly. It's like he's building walls around himself brick by brick.
With every lie,
With every justification.
he's a prisoner of his own creation.
Literally and figuratively.
Wow, that's powerful.
And this whole idea of imprisonment, it goes beyond just Victor, too.
Oh, really?
Think about Elizabeth.
Oh, right.
Stuck in this horrible waiting game.
Yeah,
Totally oblivious to the danger lurking just beneath the surface.
it's heartbreaking.
She's this bright light, full of love.
But she's powerless.
Powerless against Victor's turmoil.
Makes you think about the power dynamics in their relationship too, huh?
It does.
Like, how much agency does Elizabeth really have?
Yeah. It reflects a big issue Mary Shelley was grappling with. The limited agency of women back then.
In the 19th century.
Yeah. Elizabeth is smart, compassionate,
But ultimately, she's sidelined.
by the men around her.
It's a frustrating reminder of that historical context.
It is.
But even today, though, those themes of power imbalances, silencing women, they still resonate, don't they?
Absolutely. It adds another layer of tragedy to this whole story.
Yeah, Victor's not just battling his own demons.
Right. His actions have serious consequences for the people he supposedly loves.
It's heavy stuff.
It is. What do you think about the responsibility creators have for their creations, especially when those creations can cause harm?
It's like a cautionary tale, you know,
About
about ambition that goes unchecked, pursuing knowledge without thinking about ethics,
It's a good point. And it's a reminder that actions have consequences.
even if we don't see them coming.
Exactly. Victor's story shows us how humans can be capable of amazing things,
It's like creating life,
but also terrible things.
like causing death and suffering.
Yeah, it makes us wrestle with those complex moral questions.
Like, is Victor evil?
Or is he a victim of circumstance?
It's a question that's haunted readers for centuries.
I can see why.
And I think that's what makes Frankenstein so brilliant.
What do you mean?
It doesn't offer easy answers.
No neat conclusion.
It makes us confront the darkness within ourselves,
And grapple with those tough questions.
the ones that shape our own lives.
Exactly. And even when faced with unimaginable horror,
There's still that little glimmer of hope,
a flicker of human connection,
offering comfort,
and maybe even redemption.
even if that redemption comes at a terrible cost.
It makes you wonder if Victor can even achieve redemption.
And if he does, what would that even look like?
Yeah, good question. Victor's journey is far from over.
Right.
This chapter ends with him in England.
But we know his troubles are just beginning.
He might be physically far from the monster.
But those psychological wounds,
They're still fresh.
and the big question remains,
What's that?
will he confront his creation and find peace?
Or will he be consumed by that darkness that's closing in?
We know the monster promised to meet him in England.
Yeah,
Could it be that the monster might offer Victor some kind of twisted redemption?
that's an interesting thought.
Right.
We often forget that the monster isn't just some mindless beast.
Oh, he's definitely more than that.
He's intelligent, articulate.
Capable of empathy, even.
Exactly. So maybe, just maybe,
There's a chance for
by
understanding
reconciliation.
between creator and creature.
It's a slim hope, but a hope nonetheless.
And in the bleak world of Frankenstein.
Even the smallest glimmer of hope can feel like a lifeline.
What do you think, listener? Could there be redemption for both Victor and his creation? Okay, so we've talked about Victor's inner struggles and, his justifications, the monster always looming. But there's one more thing we got to explore.
What's that?
The power of nature.
Ah.
Throughout this whole chapter, we see these totally different views of the natural world.
Right, especially during that trip with Henry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Victor and Henry traveling through Europe.
It's fascinating how different their experiences are.
You've got Henry completely mesmerized by everything.
The Rhine, the mountains, those charming little towns.
He's just soaking it all in.
Yeah.
A total breath of fresh air, right?
Totally.
But then there's Victor.
Yeah.
He has these little moments of peace, inspired by nature.
Yeah.
They're always overshadowed by that inner turmoil he's got going on.
You can't escape it.
It's actually kind of funny. He even says that you, the listener, would probably find Henry's travel journal way more entertaining than his own thoughts.
Really?
Yeah. He knows he's not exactly the best travel companion right now,
I guess not.
but it's also tragic.
How so?
He's surrounded by all this incredible beauty, this amazing landscape.
A testament to creation.
Exactly. But he's trapped in his own personal hell.
He can't see it.
Can't appreciate it.
Makes you wonder, though, right?
About
What if he had connected with that beauty?
found solace in nature.
Could it have changed things for him?
Offered a path to redemption, maybe?
It's a good question.
What do you think, listener? Have you ever experienced that healing power of nature?
It's definitely a powerful force.
But ultimately, Victor just seems too far gone.
Too consumed by his choices, his actions.
It's like he set himself on this irreversible path.
That tension between the beauty of the world and the darkness inside Victor.
It's palpable in this chapter.
It really is.
And it all comes back to this idea of consequences.
Right.
Our actions have consequences, often ones we don't even see coming.
You cannot run our past.
Can't escape responsibility for what we create.
It's a core message here in Frankenstein.
Do you think Victor understands that, though, at this point in the story?
It's hard to say, but I think that's what makes this chapter so powerful.
Yeah.
It reminds us that we all have that capacity.
For creation.
And destruction.
For making choices that shape not just our lives, but the lives of everyone around us. It's something to think about as you keep reading, right?
Exactly.
Think about Victor's choices, his struggles, how they might resonate with your own experiences.
Yeah. What lessons can we learn from his story?
Maybe even think about those times in your own life when you faced a tough decision.
One with big consequences.
It's not about comparing yourself to Victor, of course.
We're right. We're not all creating monsters.
But it's about recognizing that human capacity for good and bad.
And understanding how our choices have those ripple effects.
So there you have it.
Our deep dive into Chapter 18 of Frankenstein.
We hope you enjoyed exploring Victor's world.
All the ethical questions.
The power of nature.
Keep questioning, keep exploring.
And keep diving deep into those stories that shape our world.
And until next time, remember,
Even in the darkest of stories.
there's always something to learn.
Something to think about.
And maybe even a little glimmer of hope to hold on to.